Fantasy versus Bbyong.
Fantasy versus Bbyong, game number 2 to the top of Polar Night. We have Fantasy. He's down a game in the series. This is his map pick. Just lost to Bbyong in the first game. On Frost, and now it's Polar Night. And starting at the bottom of the map, we have our CG Enters Terran. In blue, it is Bbyong.
Up a game in this series. Fantasy, again, just keeping his APM low. I think he's trying to stay relaxed here in the early game. Every player has different opinions on spamming, you know, in the early game. And to give you guys an idea of what this means, the reason why players like Bbyong have 220 actions per minute, even though there's literally nothing for him to do except make his gas first here, is because he wants to keep his hands warmed up. And he's moving his hands very quickly just to make sure that when he goes into the mid game, he's still quick. And most players will do this a little bit, but some take it to an extreme. And Fantasy obviously is not one of the players who's going to be like spamming hardcore. He just doesn't need to, and he just wants to keep his hands fresh, it looks like. So it's just different ideas about what's important.
Some of the fastest players out there, Sound is super fast, or was super fast when he was still active. Lucira is of course one of those guys that is absolutely crazy with the APM. Innovation is also pretty good. And if you want to see that, a lot of the videos that I actually took from the players qualifying at the qualifier, showing their keyboard and their mouse, and where you get an idea of what 220 APM actually looks like, or 300, you can go to youtube.com/ColorTV. There's a huge playlist with like 30 videos already. There are also a couple of really old school heroes like Boxer that were filmed there. So if you want to have an idea of what that actually looks like, because it's pretty impressive, especially when you check out Lucira. You can really tell that the guy had piano lessons when he was a kid. I'm not sure if he's still playing, but you can really see how he's moving his fingers. It's absolutely insane how they utilize the keyboard.
Definitely true. Factory timing's lined up here for both players. And even though the gas first went down, you know, it's since both players did, we have an identical timing as my voice goes out suddenly. I hate when this happens, Color.
It's just because of that weather that we have here.
I know, man. It's
We're stuck in our small balcony up here in the studio, and for some reason within the last few days it got so cold in Korea, and especially up here, it gets really cold. So we've been actually using the trick now that we usually get a coffee before we head to the studio, and what we do right now is as soon as the coffee's empty, we just fill in hot water so that during the game we have something to hold on to that is warm, because everything else here is so cold and it's freezing.
It's freezing, and I know there's a lot of European viewers right now going, wow, or like Canadian viewers go, wow, that's freezing fine.
It's not the Europeans, that's only the Canadians. And the Canadians and the guys that live in Alaska or wherever, like, they don't. You guys, you don't count.
There's like one guy watching from Antarctica. I'm like, wow, that's really impressive of you to watch from Antarctica, man. Like, how do you have an internet connection down there? But thanks for watching.
He's sitting there in a t-shirt, you know, outside.
He's actually just like, nah, yeah, I mean, that's probably cold for you guys. It's like totally reasonable. He's not posting on the internet about it. He like takes his coffee. When he walks outside with his coffee, it just freezes in his cup, and he's like, ah.
That happened again. He's sitting there, you know, outside with an umbrella and just in a t-shirt. It's minus, I don't know what.
Minus
Actually,
a lot.
it's not that bad in Korea in this winter, but for some reason up here on that balcony, we must have a draft or something.
It gets chilly, I don't know.
Yeah. But I'm holding on to my cup full of hot water, and it's nice.
Yeah, we don't have hot pads. Sometimes at the studio they have hot pads, and they
the
probably
old
will
studio
later.
We had that.
Yeah, and I would like have 2 a day, and then I would put them each in a different pocket on the way home.
I would sit on them.
That's definitely something you could do. But we have the basic difference in builds being Raven opening here for Fantasy, a safer opening against Banshees versus another aggressive play by Bbyong. He's going to try to do the same Marine drop with Hellion Harass.
You know, while this Medivac goes up, the one thing that's also true, in some of the subways, they actually have heated seats.
Yes,
and it's always so disappointing when you go into a subway and you sit down and you,
it doesn't
you get
have
one of those trains, exactly, that doesn't have the heating. And I'm always like, oh. I'm always tempted to leave and wait for the next one. But here we go.
This is actually so hard for Fantasy to hold right now. The AoE damage of the Hellions on those Marines, plus the Marine support here for Bbyong. That auto turret saved him.
Yeah, the auto turret did really some damage. He would love to be that in a different position now, though, because the mineral line is still very much exposed. And Bbyong goes for it. He gets a lot of kills here. He gets really a lot of kills.
And all the Marines line up in the mineral line as well.
Oh, God. Fantasy lining them up by accident. The pathing here working against him. And suddenly so many Marines going down.
He's going to get away from that Viking, too. The funny thing is, worker count's actually relatively even with the openings we have.
Yeah, it's not too bad, right? We have 6 Harvesters killed, the Medivac goes down, and that kind of makes it worth it already.
And with the Siege Tank that Fantasy has up, the second Siege Tank that's about to pop out, the Raven he has, and that Viking, he could actually pressure the natural of Bbyong that he's trying to make. In order to do that, though, he has to identify that Bbyong has that natural down there. He might be thinking that Byung's going to do a follow-up push himself off one base.
No, and at this point, in terms of income, we have Bbyong actually being quite ahead of his opponent in minerals, but that's also because we have this difference in gas right now. But definitely what Fantasy did there, that auto turret, that helped him really a lot. The problem was really the pathing of the Marines when they were walking through those mineral patches and just lined up for the Hellions to take them down. So for Bbyong, the best thing that could happen is Fantasy turning around now, but it looks like he really wants to go for it.
Yeah. He's
on the way to the bottom left, and that command center here is very endangered.
This is why you oftentimes see a Terran player build a command center on the high ground, because on the high ground he can finish it. If he has to cancel this, that's a massive delay for him. And until it's finished, he can't just lift it and run away. It has to finish first for him to save it.
That Viking needs to run. He needs to get repaired before he can do anything. Yeah, nice.
Oh, hits the siege tank.
Hit goes off regardless. And do we have a siege tank for Bbyong? He has one on the high ground, but that command set, he has to cancel that.
Well,
that's not gonna happen.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, everything targets the Marines. If they try to run in, they're going to get peppered by that siege tank fire. There's the cancel, and that's all he wants to accomplish here. I don't even think trying to move any further forward is going to accomplish much for him. He might Secret Missile that siege tank with a few more energies. He could also drop an auto turret on it, but I think the Secret Missile is the better choice.
Well, we suddenly have double commands that are being built by Bbyong in the main base, trying to make it work now and use that. Here is the point defense drone on the other hand, and that will win the Viking battle for Fantasy.
He has to cancel that first command center that's on the high ground there on the top. Starting to get low.
He seems to be yeah, there's the cancel. Just in the last second.
That was really scary.
But Fantasy has a very strong position now against Bbyong. It's 4 siege tanks against 1. And that starport is also being attacked and it's going down.
Yep, and that means no more Vikings. And this is a big problem for Bbyong, because the more Vikings that come across for Fantasy, the bigger the problem. Oh, what? He lost the siege tank for free there.
Yeah, the unwritten rule in TBT is no siege tanks, no win. And that is exactly what happens to Bbyong here right now. 1 tank against 4. That is not looking good at all.
Especially, down.
Yeah, especially since we have Fantasy now building his own command center. He has a chokehold on Bbyong.
I mean, the idea with this push is to do as much damage as possible into the game if Bbyong tries to defend his CC. After he forced a cancel on CC, I thought Fantasy might just walk away. He didn't have to actually continue this attack. And I mean, part of this is actually mistakes of Bbyong, where he's getting a big capitalization on this, but still. GG. That's game.
He has been completely contained. There's no breaking out. The starport gone. And Fantasy taking game number 2 and bringing us into a 3rd match of this best of 3 series.
Bbyong having the same expression he did after he won game 1. Looking like a robot here. Programmed to win. And maybe he had a bug in that game. But it's still his map choice because he took that early lead.
Yep.
And we'll see if Fantasy can continue with that on the map that's not his pick. That was just a solid defense by Fantasy. That's how he got that lead and was able to go for the counterattack.
And at the beginning, it looked really, really scary. It looked really like Bbyong could do a lot more damage than he did then in the end.
That auto turret really saved him.
Yeah.
Without that, he would have possibly died.
Auto turret did quite some damage. He even repaired it with the SCV. And now it's a 1-1 situation, and Daedalus Point is the map of choice for Bbyong.
Interesting. He might have plans to play this map against Super later as well. We'll see. If he does end up getting that Protoss. Both of these players looking ready. In the games that we saw were totally different. The first game, aggression versus aggression, and then we had a late game situation with Mech versus Bio. Game 2, Bbyong is aggressive again, gets shut down, and then counterattacked. Anything can happen on this map. It's a 2-player map, really wide open natural, so Bbyong's aggression might be good there with his Hellions like we've seen already.
Bbyong versus Fantasy. Alright, there you have it. We are going into the 3rd game. Terran versus Terran. Best of 3 number 1 here at Group E at the GSL Code S. Colin Wolf.